Am I really chasing my dream, or am I just chasing someone else's? I'm going to give you my answer by the end of the video. And to tell you now, it wasn't a pleasant discovery for me. Here's something I find very strange. We ask children what they want to be in life. And you think the question becomes easier as you grow up. The assumption is as you mature, you can eliminate things that you cannot do, which should make it clear what you can do and therefore what you can be. I find it surprising that in my observation, it doesn't work that way. I teach adults in my day-to-day job, and I ask them, what do you want to be in life? And apparently it becomes something extremely difficult for them to answer. Ask my niece, and she'll tell you right away what she wants to be in life. I look back at myself as a kid, and it was much clearer as well. I wanted to be a chef, and at some point I wanted to be a lawyer. Then at some point, I stopped saying what I wanted to be at all. Why is that? Hi, my name is Brandon, and welcome to a series made by your average Joe, trying to answer questions that are too troublesome to answer, at least for me and my friends. I was told that the way most of us are told about life, it has a track. For me, it was getting a 9-to-5 job, getting into consulting, and people think that, hey, that's gonna be a good career for you. So I tried all of that, and I did all of that. I got a stable job, I chased the titles, and up until very recently, I was actually an internal consultant in my company. I want to be precise about what happened next because it wasn't a midlife crisis or anything. I did what I thought I needed to do, and I gained all the social cues on paper that should make me happy. But I didn't feel whole. Something inside of me was kind of empty. And I think it was something that blew my mind away. The way I define not feeling whole is this. I was comfortable and I was unhappy at the same time. The needle was not moving forward for me. I was doing everything correctly on paper and it still wasn't moving. And when you're on track and that track is not paying out, then what was it all for? So let's go back to that question. Am I really chasing my dream, or am I just chasing someone else's dream? Let's break it down a bit because we need to understand dream in its truest definition, but I'll give you a definition here. Dream, for me, is a grand purpose of who we want to be. And in my experience, they come in two types. So I need you to imagine that people dream of a state, like being wealthy, being healthy, and having a loving family. And there are people who dream of an identity, people who want to be doctors, teachers, and professors. The difference matters more than it looks, and here's a test. A state says almost nothing about what you do on your Tuesday afternoon. An identity describes everything about what you do on a Tuesday afternoon, and it arrives with constraints. Becoming a doctor requires one specific education path, a lot of prerequisites to fill it in, but if you want to be wealthy, there's a million ways of getting there. Which one is better is definitely up for discussion, but my proposal right now is to think that having a thing is better for you because it has less constraints. So it's worth asking which dream you're aiming at, because if it's an identity, where did that identity come from? And do you need to shift it into the state? The way you do that is by asking where you got that identity and what you're actually hoping for to get from that identity. Say you want to be a doctor. Is it because you want to be rich? Or is it just because you want to help people? Because helping people doesn't mean you have to become a doctor. And that's why the dream most often handed to you by someone else is the identity one. You know the stereotype, the kid pushed towards medicine and becoming a doctor by their parents. From what I've seen, it's quite rare that anybody gets pushed towards being content. You get pushed towards becoming something big, something better. So the question sharpens here. Am I chasing my dream or someone else's? Is it something I established or was it given to me? Which makes it a question about authenticity. And to be authentic, you have to know your authentic self well enough to ask if you know what you actually want. There's an exercise for this, and I got it from Dr. Jordan Peterson. To know whether you're being authentic, you need to ask yourself, when you're talking, who exactly is it that is talking? So I went looking at the things I say to people with total confidence, my crystallized opinions that I have. Things like a corporate job is the best option for me, or becoming a consultant is cool. You get to wear a suit and a tie, and that's the thing that builds a fulfilling life. And what I found is that I do a lot of things society told me to do that I have never really questioned. Not up to a certain point anyway. What I got out of that exercise was a gap. So what do you do instead? Here's one proposal. Sit down and get to know yourself the same way you'd get to know anybody else. You ask yourself, what are your most defining moments? Look back in your life, get a pen and get a paper, and write down a few moments that are truly memorable, that makes you feel who you are. And memorable here doesn't have to be positive. I'll give you 2 examples of mine. The first one was back in school. I used to love explaining things to my friends, and a lot of them told me I was very good at teaching. And when I think about the joy of teaching, it does anchor back specifically to those compliments that my friend gave me. That stuck with me. The second one was when I was entering university, and I wanted to be a chef, and I wanted to be a teacher or a psychologist. But then my internal circle in life told me that's not going to be a sustainable job. And a voice popped up. Hey, you'd probably be a good consultant. You can still teach in a way if you become a consultant. And that also stuck with me. So I let those 2 things stand. Lined up all the other moments, and you start to see a bigger theme in your life. My first read on myself was supposedly teaching. And it's the obvious answer, I assumed. It's right there in all of the stories. But look at what I just did. If I stopped at the word teaching, that's quite the identity there. So I wanted to be a teacher, which means I never asked why I wanted what I wanted as a state there. And the state was that I wanted to be, in my case, I wanted to be a positive impact. Said in a different way, I wanted people who come into interaction with me to come out a little bit better than they were before they met me. What I love is watching something bloom out of a person who assumed there was nothing there. That's different from teaching. Teaching is a delivery mechanism. The thing I want is the state of being someone capable. That's a pattern worth finding, because a pattern like that came out of your own life. Nobody handed to you. For me, in my pattern, I noticed that I was chasing an identity, consulting in my case. And it was given to me, not by one person, but socially and collectively. I think it came from people saying, you're good at teaching. You could help people with business, be a consultant. And you can look what happened there. Something real in me got noticed. Then it got translated into a job title. The translation part was the part that was misleading. And the direction created a gap within me. It left me questioning some of the presumptuous beliefs about what is right and what is wrong, about who I am. Which is why very recently I decided to move out from being an internal consultant into people development. Big question coming back, right? Was I chasing someone else's dream all this while? The answer is yes. Not a specific person's dream though. It was from the society that I let build within me. It was promising dreams people handed to me. They just weren't mine. I was just running what people told me, but I never built it in my life. It was almost like plug and play. And I think it's a good milestone for us to ask ourselves, are we building our dream, or are we just responding to it? So that's where I've landed for now. Taking a moment to ask, am I chasing a dream I built, or am I joyriding on someone else's? I think that's a bolder way of trying to ask this question. It's worth thinking about what dream you're putting at the end of the road, because that's creates the track you're heading on. And it's what decides what is right and what is wrong for you to do each day. The longer you don't think about it, the longer you spend building a track that eventually just leads you toward discovering disappointment. So before you ask whether you're actually on track, you do have to wonder whose track it is. Is it something you thought about? Something that came out of your own synthesis? Why do you want what you want? And how do you plan to get there? We all need to find our own dreams through our own ability to identify what feels defining for us, not someone else. It's my opinion and not a conclusion. It's prone to some fine-tuning, which is exactly what I'd like to hear from all of you. Tell me where I've got this wrong in the comments, because this whole series exists to push back against all of us thinking in the most probable way. So let's celebrate human thinking, including the parts of it that disagrees with me. And if there's a question you'd like me to sit with next, put it below. I genuinely enjoy thinking about it. Like and subscribe if this is the kind of conversation you want more of.